Well, hello and a very good morning. Thanks for tuning in to News 9 Live, ladies and gents. This is Kabir Naqvi. Joining me here in the studio is my colleague Nancy Bora, and what we're essentially up to every day at 8 a.m. For those of you who are joining us every day now, you might know the drill. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, we're looking at the overnight developments. We're taking a look at some of the top headlines across various national reputed dailies. The idea is not to judge what newspaper is covering the news better than the other, just telling you what the top headlines are across various newspapers, English, Hindi, regional newspapers, newspapers from down south as well. And that's not all. We're also going to be focusing on some tabloid headlines. Nancy helps us with all the memes that are going viral on social media, because we're also keeping a keen eye on what the social media is abuzz with, and if there's a video that's going viral, we'll try and throw it up on the big wall over here. Although I say it every now and then, all that's going viral cannot be put up there for public consumption. But the idea of the show is for you to catch the news pulse of the day. This is your one-stop shop. But whilst Nancy and I are helping you do that, how about you help us get down in the comment sections? Tell us what is it that you'd like for us to cover. If there's a nuanced perspective, a debate, a discussion, deliberation, you name it. We'll try and bring a balanced perspective, balanced voices, on that particular topic. Meanwhile, let's not waste any more time. We have a list of stories that we have, curated for you, because there is a paucity of time, and of course, very soon, the Parliament is also going to commence the women's bill, the reservation bill, which people have started talking about. That is going to make its way for discussion. Sonia Gandhi, they're saying, might just, address the gathering, address the new Lok Sabha. Because I mean, her speech is actually missing from all of this, right? Many people also saying that why did Parliament, why did the Prime Minister have to go through 3-4 speeches, in the Parliament? Was there anything that was left to say when he was, exiting, when we were exiting the old building? That he gave another one at the Central Hall, then another one at the Lok Sabha, then one at the Rajya Sabha. So a lot of speeches galore, ladies and gentlemen. In this special session, essentially, it's just been speeches so far. One bill that has been moved so far. A lot that is going to be taken up for discussion today. We're going to bring you an update on that. And that's not all. In terms of the India-Canada dispute, only last night, Canadians have been advised by their government to, advise caution, exercise caution when they're traveling to India. Government junks Trudeau's absurd allegations on terrorist killings. After that, Trudeau has come out and said that, look, we don't want to provoke India. All we're trying to do is to make sure that India takes this, these allegations seriously. Our politicians have gone out and called names to the Prime Minister of Canada. We'll talk about all of that, ladies and gentlemen. And that's not all. We also have with us news coming in from Kokarnag in Anantnag in South Kashmir, where after a 7-day gruesome anti-terror encounter that has come to a complete end, we've lost a couple of brave hearts. May their souls rest in peace. But our security forces have persisted. 2 terrorists that were cordoned in that particular area, they have been neutralized, ladies and gentlemen. Meanwhile, Karnataka High Court has suggested a minimum age for using social media. Interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the new generation, I think it was necessary. But, social media is the new, lifestyle. It's the new basic necessity nowadays with food and water.
Precisely. So it is. You actually put it, really well. In the Maslow's, hierarchy of needs, I think social media is right up there. So will this face flack, which I think it will, we'll have to wait and find out. We'll talk more about this. Hindustan Times story on this one as well. Biden has hailed the India-Europe Economic Corridor at the United Nations General Assembly. United Nations General Assembly, a lot happened over there, including Zelensky's dramatic speech, where he said that, Russia is weaponizing food security, Russia is weaponizing a lot of things. We'll talk about that as well. More than that, it says, can't rule out a second wave of Nipah, says Kerala Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan. Nipah scare and a Nipah outbreak. After 2018, it has happened some 4 times. This is the 4th, outbreak. Kerala has a robust system in place. A lot of factors at play. We'll bring you all the latest details. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen. Meanwhile, when we're talking about Kerala, neighboring state Karnataka, Siddaramaiah, the Karnataka Chief Minister, he's in the national capital today. He's meeting state leaders and state members of parliament and ministers in the national capital. Top of the agenda is the Kaveri Rao, water sharing between Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, apart from other stalled projects that are going to be, taken up. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's pretty much the list. Of course, we have some other stories in there for you as well. Some nice visuals for you to look at as well, even as we're looking at various, climatic and extreme weather events across the world for you to, consume. Let's shift our focus to the top story of the day. It seems like today, inside the new Parliament House, government tables 33% women's reservation bill. The Prime Minister says we will write history. Unlikely to be effective in 2024. There's a delimitation process that's going to take place, after which you will have to decide on what seats are these reserved seats. Then there's a rotational process in play. 180 seats will have dual membership. Many people coming out and saying that, there's this OBC angle and factor that is missing in this particular case. There needs to be a quota within a quota. How welcoming is it? How inclusive is it? Because लोग कह रहे हैं पिछड़े वर्ग की मुसलमान महिलाएं और औरतें, पिछड़े वर्ग की ईसाई महिलाएं, उनके लिए किस तरीके का बेनिफिट होगा इस रिजर्वेशन से. That is what people are now coming out and questioning. And the Congress party, on the other hand, Nancy, they have said that this is something that we wanted to bring about 27 years back. Even Sonia Gandhi yesterday said, हाँ तो अपना ही है, it's ours, it's ours. But now they're also saying that जब आपने 2026 से पहले से लागू करना ही नहीं है, तो why do you want to take credit for this?
I mean, definitely, I knew that, the game for who is actually responsible for the women's bill, for the historic women's bill, is going to come up. And the way, Mr. Modi in his speech said that I am the chosen one, God chose me so that I could, come and pass this bill. But Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, on the other hand, in his speech, he said that, this came, Rajiv Gandhi was the one who bought this bill. He was working for it. Congress has been working for this for the past, I don't know how many years now, and you cannot just come in and take credit for it. But Modi said that, aside from all the credit hogging politics, I urge everybody, let's give this bill 100% consensus. But in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha also, when the bill was about to pass in the past as well, the only question Samajwadi Party at that time also, they came out and they strongly opposed the bill. They said that there is no reservation for the OBC women in this whole
I'm just
bill.
saying it's interesting to see that Prahlad Patel had to take back the tweet whilst he was congratulating the Prime Minister. Tejasvi Surya, I was taking a look at a couple of reports yesterday. Tejasvi Surya had back in the day, tweeted against the women's reservation bill. And it seems like the test has finally come. He's now going to be rummaging through his social media feed and trying to delete that post. Where he said that if this happens, it is going to be a big step in the wrong direction.
In the wrong direction, because,
there are some key provisions in the legislation. Even before we talk about politics kya ho rahi hai iske aaspaas, the OBC angle, the quota within a quota angle. When will this begin happening? Is it mere lip service or is it actually going to benefit women? These are some questions that are now coming out. But before that, let us take you through what are the key legislations, key provisions in this legislation, beg your pardon. 33% quota for women in Lok Sabha assemblies, the Delhi Assembly, where direct elections happen, by the way. There is going to be no reservation in the Rajya Sabha and state legislative councils. This is where indirect elections take place. Now, 1/3 Lok Sabha seats within the 33% quota to be reserved for SC, ST women. So there is a reservation within a reservation. You're reserving, reserving, beg your pardon, 33% of the Lok Sabha seats. Within those 33% of Lok Sabha seats, 1/3 of that, 33% of that 33% is actually reserved for the ST, SC seats. No quota for OBC women. And this is going to become a big question mark, Nancy. Reserved seats to rotate after each delimitation. Many people are also saying that there's a high possibility something like this might not get implemented before 2029 as well.
Yeah, I mean, this looks like a far-fetched idea because,
Is it really a far-fetched idea? I mean, you know what, first and foremost, let's put you on the stand here. You're a woman yourself. What came to your mind? The first thought that came to your mind when you heard about what all the headlines are reading, and I'll just take a look at some other headlines from across various newspapers. This one here says, women's quota bill tabled in LS, Modi says will ensure passage. It says here, inside new parliament, government tables 33% women's reservation bill. Let me take a look at what the Hindustan Times says. The Hindustan Times here says, women's reservation bill tabled in Lok Sabha. Historic legislation marks shift to the new parliament building. The Indian Express says, women's bill is in. House proceedings begin from new parliament. Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam, first bill in new building. Prime Minister says old parliament can be named Samvidhan Sadan, but the essential big bold headline it says women's bill is in. Government brings bill with 33% quota for women in SC ST seats too. So I mean, when you're looking at all of this, Nancy, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
When I heard that, they are going to finally pass the bill, I was kind of, delighted to see that finally we are, we have, in the past we have said that, we need to encourage women participation in development process, in science space, but we never talked about politics like that. But now that we are talking about it, finally that, the bill got passed, and I was very happy ki, now we have the bill. But when you actually read the bill, and when you actually, read about
understand,
the legislation,
try
when
and
you
understand
iron out the details,
delimitations and the details.
When you
the
iron
devil
out
is in the details,
when you iron out the details, you get to know that, okay, there is a lot of things which are still left to be figured out, and it's going to take a lot of time for the government right now to implement the bill, because there is a whole delimitation process where actually we are proposing an amendment in the constitution, which is the longest process. So and then you have this on rotational basis, so this is not going to be a permanent seat for anybody as well. So when you delve into the details, it's a little bit, it's little bit weird to see that, okay, we have a bill that which was stuck for like past 27 years, but now that finally when the bill is out, there are a lot of things that still needs to be figured out, and there is a possibility that this bill, and we invited a lot of women who in the parliament yesterday to come, and because this is a historic, and when Arjun Ram Meghwal was proposing the bill, the centre made sure strategically that all the women were sitting next to him. So
that's actually a very decent point that you're making over there, Nancy, because a lot of people are also saying that in the photo ops that happened in front of the Central Hall, right behind the Prime Minister, the Home Minister, the Vice President, and Om Birla, who's the Speaker of the lower house, all women were standing right behind the Prime Minister. What would have been even better if the Prime Minister walked to the new parliament with women. If he would have held hands with women, that would have sent a larger and a far-reaching message.
Definitely.
You wouldn't even have to maybe present the bill in the Lok Sabha to put that point across.
I mean, Modi ji is known for making an event out of everything. So, women reservation bill, whether it's shifting from old parliament building to the new parliament building and walking with all the MPs behind him, it's always a huge festive event, every small thing. But, they are very clever, and, in his speech also he pointed out that, God has chosen me, my government was the only government who had the courage to pass this bill. But, they didn't make any change. In 2010 also, the bill was there with the same problem that there is no reservation for the OBC women. And right now we are fighting over the, reservation of whether it's going to include OBC women or not. But here I was reading that there is a possibility that by 2029 also, there is no chance that this bill will get implemented before 2029. And I was reading about it that the reservation for women, however, will kick in only after the completion of the delimitation exercise based on the first census conducted after the passage of bill. So, before 2029, first you have to wait for the consensus to happen.
Yeah.
Then the delimitation process will take place, and then only this bill can get implemented. So, by 2029...
Wait a minute. For all those who are watching this stream right now, ladies and gentlemen, do get down in the comment sections. What is your understanding of the women's reservation bill? Is it mere lip service, or is it actually going to benefit the women? And if this benefit is going to come so late in time, I mean, this is what the opposition is also saying, that the ruling dispensation is trying to get credit for something that is going to happen in 2029.
2029.
Maybe not, maybe later than 2029. That's also an if situation.
Yeah, definitely.
Look, great optics, wonderful stuff. The name of the bill itself, Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam. Right, bringing Nari Shakti to the forefront, women empowerment. G20 under Vasudeva Kutumbakam, the Prime Minister has made sure that it's not just women, empowerment. It's women-led empowerment as well.
Yeah.
So great steps in that particular direction. But if something like this is not even going to happen till 2029, I mean, we must question it a little bit. So get down in the comment sections. Help us out with what's your understanding of it. Again, coming back to the consensus, because a lot of people have noted that amongst the G20 nations that came here, Nancy, India was the only nation that hadn't conducted its most recent consensus.
Yeah, and when we are talking about, in Saudi Arabia, I guess.
Bihar mein people are demanding a caste census.
Yeah.
Other places also people are demanding, various other kinds of censuses.
Because
we need a national census. I mean, we're still working on a 2011 census.
2011 census. And we are not conducting the census, and that is why all the, procedures, they get stuck. And, I have always said this, that India has always been developed. We sometimes, because in other countries as well, there need to be a law that, women should also vote. But in India, there was never something like this. It was a given fact that women are supposed to vote because they are also citizen of the country. So there was nothing special, order passed or bill passed that, let's give women the right to vote as well. This was already there, given, it was a given factor. But now we are talking about this whole bill, there is a lot of things that the center needs to figure out. There is a lot of politics that needs to figure out. And, if we are talking about, the process, but now the Congress was like, we are going to welcome the bill. We don't care. We don't care about the credit. But after they heard the bill and after they got to know that there is no quota for OBC, they changed their stand and they're like, no, this is not something that is acceptable.
Right.
We are going to oppose it.
So many women, and I don't know if we have those visuals. If you don't, I'm going to request the control room to rummage through the files. Yesterday, a lot of women made their way towards the national capital.
Yeah.
A lot of women make their way to the national capital. Many people were saying these women don't even know that something like this is not going to get implemented.
Yeah. I mean,
तो एक तरीके से बड़ा सवाल ये है, और वो सवाल पूछने की हिम्मत जरूर करनी चाहिए कि क्या आप बुद्धू बना रहे हैं? Are you making a fool out of the people?
Yeah.
Is the bigger question.
Definitely.
Meanwhile, you know what? Let's lay bare the semantics first, Nancy. Sonia Gandhi might speak today.
Yeah.
Smriti Irani, Nirmala Sitharaman, being women ministers themselves, they might get a chance to speak. Congress, SP and the RJD have demanded the OBC quota in this particular, reservation. Disappointing that there is no OBC quota is coming across from Uma Bharti. Now, quota is going to come after census and delimitation. 2026, 2029. What is that year going to be? Big questions on this particular bill. Meanwhile, we're going to take you through the rolling coverage of this reservation bill that is going to come up in the parliament today, the new parliament, mind you, the new Lok Sabha, the peacock themed Lok Sabha, visuals of which you can see on your screens. Meanwhile, Uma Bharti, Anurag Thakur, some political reactions on this particular story. Listen in and make your own understanding. But meanwhile, do get down in the comment sections. Tell us, what do you make of this women's reservation bill?
नारी शक्ति नमो नमः। नारी तू ही नारायणी। अगर कुल मिलाकर देखें, मोदी जी ने 9 वर्षों में बेटी बचाओ बेटी पढ़ाओ से शुरुआत करके सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप को 9 करोड़ बहनों को लखपति बनाने की और ले जाने के अभियान की शुरुआत करके दुनिया की सबसे ज्यादा महिला पायलट्स भारत में, कोई ऐसा क्षेत्र नहीं जहां पर नारी का योगदान ना हो, महिलाओं का योगदान ना हो।
मुझे बहुत खुशी है कि महिला आरक्षण विधेयक आया, लेकिन मुझे कसक है कि इसमें पिछड़ी जाति, एसटी, एससी और पिछड़ी जाति के बारे में कोई क्लियरिटी नहीं है। मतलब उनको नहीं होगा, और अगर उनको नहीं होगा तो मुझे भय है कि 33% आरक्षण पूरी तरह से एक ऐसे वर्ग को चला जाएगा जो एक प्रकार से नॉमिनेटेड से होंगे, और इसलिए इस भय से मैं बहुत चिंतित हूं। और मैंने प्रधानमंत्री जी को तुरंत चिट्ठी लिखी। और ये आज की बात नहीं है, जब देवगौड़ा जी इसको लाए थे तब भी मैंने खड़े होकर रोक दिया था उनको कि आप इसमें प्रोविजन करिए एसटी, एससी और ओबीसी का, और उसके बाद करिए। अभी भी मैं कहूंगी कि अगर आप 33 को 100 मान लें तो उसमें से 50% आरक्षण एसटी, एससी और ओबीसी का उनके हिसाब से उसका वर्गीकरण करके उनको दीजिए, तब इसको इस प्रस्ताव को सदन में पारित होना चाहिए।
Well, all right then. 7 hours that have been given, allocated to discuss the women's reservation bill in the parliament, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to bring you all the details, a rolling coverage from the parliament. Big questions, like I said. The OBC, no quota for OBC women, a quota within a quota, delimitation, a new census. That is something that is being awaited. When will it finally happen? And the bigger question, is it mere lip service or is it actually going to benefit women? That is something that we have to keep our focus on. Meanwhile, a welcome step, of course, because we don't need women empowerment, we need women-led empowerment, and that is something that India is laying a right kind of focus and attention on as well. But even as we're looking at, how diplomatically on the global stage India is being looked at, the Prime Minister said in the Parliament as well that people today want to become friends with India.
Yeah.
Vishwamitra is the role that India has to play today.
Yeah.
लोग हम में मित्रता ढूंढ रहे हैं, लोग हमसे दोस्ती करना चाह रहे हैं, but the India-Canada ties, it seems, are going towards an all-time low. This over the Sikh separatist leader, various Khalistani supporters, and people who have been supporting anti-India elements on foreign soil as well. Now the Canadian government came out and said, well, that government officials of India, they have their hand in the killings of Hardeep Singh Nijjar and several other Sikh separatist leaders. Hardeep Singh Nijjar, who was the leader of the Khalistan Tiger Force, he was killed in Surrey in Canada. Now lots of factors at play over here as well. Trudeau claims, I'll just read the headlines first, and there's a reaction coming across from the Canadian Prime Minister. We'll play that out as well, and then we'll talk about various factors. Trudeau claims Indian government linked to Khalistan leaders killing. Delhi says that it is absolutely absurd what you're saying. Yesterday, Abhishek Manu Singhvi, he took to the microblogging website X, formerly known Twitter, and said that Trudeau is the biggest joker. Wait, hold on. You know what? I don't want to put words in Abhishek Manu Singhvi's mouth. But there were several names that were called. When the Canadian Prime Minister was being talked about. India-Canada ties hit a new low. Expel diplomats in tit for tat action. दोनों ने एक दूसरे के top diplomats को expel कर दिया है. Meanwhile, Canada's evidence and its Five Eyes alliance frame India's challenge. Given trade and diaspora, bid to insulate strained bilateral ties from the impact. Already there is some damage control that's happening. Now the Indian Express has given out a detailed coverage. I'm going to peruse through the pages. What is it that you have on your newspaper?
Well, I was reading about this Canada story, and they have a proper detailed coverage on who was Hardeep Singh Nijjar, why the Sikhs are so powerful in Canada right now, and what is the NIA's action on the pro-Khalistani movement that has been going on in Canada for so long. And the more you read about the story, the more your bloods get boiled, because I have so many questions to ask to the Canada Prime Minister that let's talk about facts here. We have
it says here from Canada's stand on the farmers' stir, the farmers' protest. You remember how Canada had postured itself to the farm stir to protest by pro-Khalistan groups, the deepening rift. And you're right, the Nijjar saga. July 2022, India announces cash reward for information leading to arrest of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, the head of Khalistan Tiger Force, accuses him of involvement in an alleged attack on a Hindu priest in India. In June 18, in 2023, Nijjar is fatally shot in the parking lot of a Guru Nanak Sikh Gurdwara in Surrey, British Columbia. He was also the president of the Gurudwara Committee. On June 19 this year, his close associate reveals that Nijjar has received warnings from Canadian intelligence officials. Gurpatwant Singh Pannun, his lawyer and the chief of the band Sikhs for Justice, claims that CSIS had warned Nijjar about threats to his life.
And I mean, US is also deeply concerned that, of the allegations. They are also asking India to, cooperate with the Canadian agencies and, so in the investigation
That's the top
process.
diplomat that we've, expelled, Nancy. the Indian top diplomat.
And I think as he should be, because India, is not going to let this slide, because this is something that is a huge allegation you are putting out, and you know how Khalistani has been a sensitive issue, and I think India was, they hit back exactly like they should have, and they gave him 5 days to just leave the country, because if you can expel our top Indian diplomat, why can't we? So I think that was the correct answer that India gave to Canada.
But there is a deepening rift that we have to be careful about, Nancy, as well.
Yeah.
Because take a look at this. The SGPC has said matter affects all 6. This being reported from Amritsar. Amid souring diplomatic relations between India and Canada over the killing of a Khalistan leader in June, Shiromani Gurdwara Prabandhak Committee Chief Harjinder Singh Dhami on Tuesday said the matter is very serious. In the murder case of Hardeep Singh Nijjar in Canada, the expelling of a diplomatic officer of India by the Canadian government after allegations were levelled against him raises many questions. Even though India rejected the allegations and expelled a Canadian diplomatic officer, this matter is very serious and directly related to 6 which will affect the community members at a global level for sure. The BJP and the Congress party have slammed Justin Trudeau. Meanwhile, the Akalis, a big party in Punjab, want the Prime Minister to show all facts.
Yeah.
This is what we're picking up. Now, on the 21st of June, let me take you through a timeline. On the 21st of June, police initiate a search for 2 suspects who fled the scene on foot, later meeting a getaway vehicle in a nearby park. On June 24th this year, demonstrators gather outside Vancouver's Indian consulate chanting slogans for Khalistan. June 25th, Nijjar's funeral is held at a Gurudwara. On the 4th of July, Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly expresses concern about safety of Indian diplomats in Canada after protest posters circulating in the community accused them of being linked to Nijjar's death. On the 16th of August, homicide investigators announced search for a 3rd suspect in the case, believed to have been a driver of a getaway car. On the September 10th this year, Trudeau in Delhi to attend the G20 summit says he underlined importance of respecting rule of law and democratic principles. Delhi says they raised the issue of growing extremism in Canada. 15th of September, Canada indefinitely postpones the trade mission to India, slated for October. September 18th, Trudeau addresses the House of Commons, says allegations about Indian involvement in Nijjar's killing are credible. Joly announces decision to expel 1 diplomat. On the 19th of September, which is yesterday, India rejects as absurd and motivated Trudeau's allegations and in a tit-for-tat move expels a senior Canadian diplomat. Well, let's quickly listen in to what Justin Trudeau, in his latest reaction to the press had to say.
As I've said, India, the government of India, needs to take this matter with the utmost seriousness. We are doing that. We are not looking to provoke or escalate. We are simply laying out the facts as we understand them, and we want to work with the government of India to lay everything clear and to ensure that there is proper. One of the things that is so important today is that India and the government of India take seriously this matter. It is extremely serious, and it has far-reaching consequences in international law and otherwise. For Canada, as I said yesterday, we're going to remain calm. We're going to remain grounded in our democratic principles and values. We're going to follow the evidence and make sure that the work is done to hold. Over the course of the summer, we have been working closely with our intelligence agencies who are moving forward in their analysis. We wanted to make sure that we had solid grounding in understanding what was going on in analysis and indeed in facts. We wanted to make sure we were taking the time to talk with our allies, to share what we knew. We wanted to make sure that we fully shared with the government of India the seriousness and the depths of our preoccupations and indeed conclusions. But Canadians have a right to know and need to know when things are going on like this, and that's why we made the decision to do this.
Well, it seems like after all those tit-for-tat actions, and I don't want to cast any aspersions, it does seem like Justin Trudeau has, leveled down,
Yeah.
how he spoke in the parliament against the Indian government officials and how he's speaking right now. But, again, I'm just speculating. Meanwhile, it's also important to take a look at, how the community is also looking at this news. From senior journalists to authors in Canada. Take a look at their reactions, Nancy. Their perspective is also going to help us understand how that side of the fence is dealing with the situation.
Problem is that for the Canadians, there has been a persistent but unconfirmable rumor, a story, if you like, within the Khalistani community in Canada, which, as you know, is large and very active, that this was not some local gangland killing as it first appeared, but rather that it was a state-sponsored assassination by the Indian government. Now, they were not able to produce any evidence of this, which didn't stop them making the accusation loudly and often. They prepared, as you probably know, posters, which they put up at parades and demonstrations at Indian missions in Canada, the consulate in Toronto, in Vancouver, and the High Commission in Ottawa. These posters describing Indian diplomats as killers, and I quote, and basically painting targets on the backs of these diplomats. None of this rested on any evidence that we know of until today.
अभी स्टिल जो इसमें दो चीजें हैं इनको समझना पड़ेगा। एक तो है कि जो इन्वेस्टिगेशन है वो चल रही है, उसकी इन्वेस्टिगेशन की जा रही है IHIT के द्वारा, जो जिसको कहते हैं इंटीग्रेटेड होमिसाइड इन्वेस्टिगेशन टीम। सरे में ये हत्या हुई थी। सरी जो है वो ब्रिटिश कोलंबिया का दूसरा पॉपुलेशन के जनसंख्या के लिहाज से सबसे बड़ा शहर है, और जियोग्राफिकली भौगोलिक स्थिति से अगर देखा जाए तो ब्रिटिश कोलंबिया जो प्रांत है उसका सबसे बड़ा शहर है। तो उसके अंदर जहां पर सबसे ज्यादा इंडो कैनेडियन और खासतौर से पंजाबी मूल के लोग रहते हैं, वहां पर इस हत्या का होना वाकई दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण था। लेकिन कुछ अज्ञात लोगों द्वारा गोलियां मारी गई थी हरदीप सिंह निज्जर को, और उनकी हत्या की गई थी। तो इस मामले में 18 जून से लेकर अब तक इन्वेस्टिगेशन जो है वो चल रही है।
Well, so we'll have to see where this deepening rift is leading. At the moment, the ties between the two nations, who are, in terms of defense ties and in terms of trade ties, real good partners. At the same time, just to give you some sort of a figure, you've got some 1.4 million Indians in Canada, out of which 0.7 lakh are Sikhs.
There are
from the
18
community.
MPs in the Canadian Parliament who are Sikh. So, we can understand why the influence of, Sikh community and the way Justin Trudeau is just trying to protect them. But my question is that, Khalistan is just not a threat to India. It has been a global threat. We are forgetting, Kanishka air bombing that happened in 1985. It was one of the, largest aviation disaster that, the world has witnessed. And, these are under Khalistani movement. So, we are not, you are blaming and you are picturing India as somebody who is trying to, who killed a very important leader, who killed somebody who is very important. First of all, there is no evidence that India is linked to the death of, Hardeep Singh Nijjar. But even if it wasn't, it's just not a citizen that we're talking about. We're talking about a Khalistani terrorist who have been, promoting, who has been inciting anti-India violence in the country, in Canada as well. So my question to Canada would be, what if some other day, there is an ISIS agent who has been, threatening USA and he was doing, doing anti-USA thing, but he's a citizen of Canada. So is Justin Trudeau going to protect him as well and going to, the one moment they say that we are not trying to provoke them, we are not trying to provoke India, and the other moment you have this, they have you update your advisory to travel to India that don't go to these places until and unless it's emergency because there is threat of terrorism or terror activities. So it is provoking. How can you say that you are not provoking the country? So I think,
Well, you're absolutely right. But, it's again early doors. We'll have to wait and find out as to how these two, ministries are going to now get in touch with each other. There's going to be dialogue, deliberation. And let's hope that this does not get any more ugly than it already has. But at the same time, you can't simply come out pointing fingers at each other. There's a way of, putting your argument across as well. All right, let's shift our focus, ladies and gentlemen. We will now move towards that security operation that was being conducted in Kokarnag in Anantnag, which is in the southern part of Kashmir, south of Pir Panjal, an area which is known for its treacherous topography, an area wherein gun battle gets difficult, an area that now terrorists have started using again. Terrorism and deaths have gone down certainly. Neutralization of terrorists in the valley has gone up. But meanwhile, the South Kashmir, the south of Pir Panjal, that has been a problem, which is again snakes in the area that are rearing their head. It was a week-long gun battle, Nancy. Security forces end week-long Anantnag operation. Lashkar-e-Toiba man among 2 terrorists that have been killed. There is also a side story which says that an electrician who turned terrorist was low on J&K police priority list. Maybe that's why he turned, his ways around. Meanwhile, search for live ammunition is going to continue. Mopping up exercises basically are going to continue now, Nancy.
Yeah, I was reading about it, and the biggest news that was that Uzair Khan, the one who was responsible for the
self-styled commander of Lashkar-e-Toiba's the resistance force, the RSF, something like that.
And, and the moment they announced that he has been killed, I think that was that was a declaration that the war is over, that encounter it has to stop. And what they were saying, that Khan's body was recovered after he was killed earlier in the forest near Gadul village of Kokarnag in North Kashmir's Anantnag district. During the week-long search and shoot operation, he was among 2 or 3 terrorists responsible for the initial gunfight, in which 2 army officers and J&K police, of course the brave hearts that we lost. And the toll has since risen to 5 with the death of 2 more soldiers. So, although we have gotten a hold of the terrorist Uzair Khan who was responsible for it, we, but at what cost? We already lost 5, brave hearts.
You're right, Nancy. You're right. You're right. Many people have asked that question. At what cost? But then again, Nancy, I've been saying it time and again. This is something that we have to live with. This is something that we have to protect.
Definitely.
And this is a sacrifice that we will have to make. I know it's easier said than done for me to be, sitting here in the studio and saying it, but, it needs to be done. This is something that we have to constantly live with.
Yeah, definitely.
We have to make sure that the snake does not rear its head. And for that, encounter specialists and brave hearts like, Colonel Manpreet, like Major Dhonchak, like Muzammil Bhatt, the DSP of Jammu and Kashmir Police, and the 2 other soldiers that we've lost.
Officers, I mean, it's definitely, the way India retaliated, we always retaliate. I mean, I had faith in the army professions that they are going to get a hold of it. They are not going to let the sacrifice of these 3 soldiers go in vain. But my, the main concern still remains that these terror activities, they are going to spurge in every, a few intervals. There is another activity in the south of Kashmir. There is something going on again and again. So what is the exact solution that one has to figure out? But for now, this, the war is still going on. The battle has been won by, the army. We have gotten hold of Uzair Khan. And obviously the army officials have advised the civilians not to go in that area yet, because they're still mopping up. There are still, live grenades that are going to be harmful. But after, I think, 7 days of intense gunfiring, intense, shootout happening in the area, I think it's kind of a bittersweet victory that, finally it's over. We have lost 5 of our brave hearts. But I think the only, solution to this is that to get to the crux of it, to get to the root cause of this problem and find a permanent solution to this, because we cannot
Nancy, I don't think there is going to be a permanent solution. The permanent solution is going to be calling out Pakistan for funding terrorism, which we are doing on a global level. Meanwhile, let's not forget that it is difficult to weed out terror from that area. None of us, most of us haven't even been in that particular locality, in that location.
Definitely.
We don't even know what warfare means, in a forest-like situation in Gadul, in Kokarnag. Public has been told to stay away from the site of the gun battle. This is what the police is saying. Why? Well, because search operations will continue. We still have to search a large area. There will be lots of live ammunition as well. We will have to collect and destroy that. That's part of the gunfight. So let's just say that the gunfight has ended. The operation has not ended yet. It's mopping up. It has to continue because there is going to be live ammunition. This is what people still have to, the forces, our forces, or what we see is, strong, brave men with, sophisticated weaponry and right kind of Kevlar, armor on them, standing in those in front of nice lush valleys. But the reality is very different. The reality is very dark, treacherous. You're dealing with, a life-death situation every passing second. Wednesday's gunfight took place in Gadol's forest when the joint team forces led by senior officers were moving towards the suspected terrorist hideout. The team came under heavy gunfire, leading to the deaths of Colonel Manpreet Singh, commanding officers of the 19 Rashtriya Rifles, and Kokarnag, Major Ashish Dhonchak, and Deputy Superintendent of Police Humayun Muzammil Bhatt. The bodies of Colonel Singh and Major Dhonchak were recovered the next day with the help of paratroopers and army mountaineers. Deputy Superintendent Bhatt was evacuated from the site of the gunfight on Wednesday evening with critical injuries, but he succumbed on the way. On Monday, the joint team of forces recovered the body of Sepoy Pradeep Singh, who had been missing since Wednesday's gunfight. Meanwhile, a week-long operation in the dense forest of Kokarnag in South Kashmir by the joint team of the J&K police and the army has come to an end, with the security forces saying at least 2 terrorists had been killed, including one identified as Uzair Khan of the Lashkar-e-Toiba. Last Wednesday, a day after the security forces started the operation on the basis of inputs of terrorists' movements in the area, an army colonel, a major and a deputy superintendent are brave hearts that we lost. Meanwhile, our security forces have persisted, ladies and gentlemen, but a long way to go, Nancy, when it comes to weeding out, terror from the area completely. All right, let's shift our focus here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk a little bit about the social media as well. Karnataka High Court has come in and said that a minimum age for children to use social media has to be arrived at.
Yeah. I mean, definitely, as I said earlier also, see, social media is something that now that, first at older generation, they used to think social media is a time to, time pass, you go there, you want to socialize with your friends. But nowadays, social media has become a platform where people are talking about issues where, kids are learning a lot about lots of things. So, the age limit, to have a minimum age limit on the social media platform is something that can be, seen as, can be controversial now, because kids are, we are talking about just not kids, we are talking about people. How are you going to refrain them from using social media like that? Because social media is just not nowadays social media is just not a platform to just connect with your friends, to share memes. Because now people, use social media platform to talk about important issues, to learn about important things. So I think it's going to be a tough battle for as the Karnataka government High Court has advised that here is the Hindustan Times report that we were talking about. It says that the Karnataka High Court on Tuesday observed that the central government should consider bringing an age requirement for the use of social media akin to the legal age for drinking alcohol. So, using social media is just as dangerous as drinking alcohol. A bench of Justices G. Narendra and Vijay Kumar A. Patil made the observation while hearing an appeal by Exco, formerly known as Twitter, challenging a June 30 order in which a single bench dismissed its plea against the takedown order issued by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. So the best is to ban the social media, and a lot of good will come. So seriously, today school going children are so addicted to it. So definitely, the issue that we are talking about is there, that social media nowadays kids are addicted to it, they are talking about it, and definitely it's a problem that the way social media is being used as a weapon among school children, and the way they get influenced, because we are talking about young kids here. So they are talking about young kids here who can get affected by it at any moment. So I think it was one of important advisory. Obviously, how are you going to address the issue? How are you going to set the limit? How are you going to set the age limit is something that is going to be very important. So I think that is what we have till now, and that said that in the case in question, we have, I was reading about it, when the Council of Government told the court that the law now requires users to furnish Aadhaar and other documents. So we are talking about that to create a social media platform, you need some legal documents, you need Aadhaar card and everything. So when we talk about having an Aadhaar card, when you're officiating a social media platform, I mean, that is something that, you know, creates a ruckus already, that, you know, there are already so many restrictions we are talking about. I think it's important that, you know, in a country like India where we are talking about democracy and everything, it is important to address the issue, to address, you know, some regularization, because it's separate, it is separated from the government, it has no control. And you know, when social media, when kids, especially younger people at young age, are exposed to social media, they have to think about it. They have to, you know, try to, you know, once they go ahead and once they are exposed to a lot of information, I mean, how are they going to contemplate it? It's something that is really interesting. So for that matter, I think that it is a necessary step, but how are you going to address the issue, how are you going to set the age limit, is something that is going to be very interesting. And also, I was reading about the arguments, and why can't it be extended here also? Everybody has an opinion on anything under any age. So your client may not agree, but still, so you know, any kid is supposed to have opinion. Everybody has, you know, they are exported to information, they are exposed to information. But it's also important that one thinks about that, how are they going to, you know, use that information, what is the regulation. So that is something very important. So let's move on from the story. And the other story that we have today for you guys is that Biden, you know, went to UNGA and he praised the economic corridor that we have been talking about, the historic economic corridor. That was something really interesting to see, because Biden, I think after the G20 summit, Biden could just not stop praising India, hailing the success of G20 summit and the relations with, you know, and the you know, amazing relationship and amazing defense ties, trade ties that it has with India. In Vietnam also, he went ahead and he appreciated India for its success. And then, you know, it went ahead and now at UNGA, he also went ahead and, you know, talked to the economic corridor, the historic economic corridor. So before that, before moving on, before we talk about what happened with Biden, what did he say? Let's listen into what he said at the UNGA and when he was praising the economic corridor.
A groundbreaking effort we announced at the G20 connect India to Europe through the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Israel will spur opportunities and investment across two continents. This is part of our effort to build a more sustainable, integrated Middle East.
So Kabir, that was Biden. He was,
and it's important to take a note of you know, what the United States president had to say, because at a global level like the UNGA, he's come out and he said something like that, which goes on to speak volumes about what you know, it means to be a partner with India today.
Definitely.
United States is just a, you know, peripheral supporter. It's actually Europe, Middle East and India in that corridor. जिसमें बाहर से आके बाइडन साहब भी उसकी तारीफें कर रहे हैं. More importantly, again on the UNGA front, when we're talking about the UNGA, let's do justice to the UNGA. Zelensky was also there. It was a dramatic first speech. You know, he spoke about, you know, the war against Ukraine and all that. You know, but more importantly, it's Prime Minister Narendra Modi's magic and power that Biden has hailed the economic corridor at the UNGA. Meanwhile, Nancy, it seems like we're going to have to wrap up this show, you know, earlier than we'd like to. We spent a lot of time on the women's bill, which we should as well, because today, ladies and gentlemen, today is going to be a game changer of a day. The women's bill is going to be in. We will have to, you know, wait and find out as to what kind of speeches and discussions are going to take place. I'm excited because it's a new parliament, it's a new era.
So am I.
Shri Ganesh of the new parliament, and today it's going to be Shri Ganesh of the discussion, Shri Ganesh of the argumentation, Shri Ganesh of the debate.
Shri Ganesh of democracy.
Shri Ganesh of democracy. That's the right way of putting it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching this show, this episode of today's Page One. This is Nancy and Kabir signing out. We're going to continue with our rolling coverage from the Parliament at 11. The India-Canada dispute is also something that we're going to heavily give our focus on. Manipur updates continue to happen. Let's not forget, Siddaramaiah, Karnataka Chief Minister, he's in the national capital. Important meetings that are going to take place today. Keep watching and stay tuned to News 9 Live for all the latest updates.
He thought he could outlast us. And 1 year later, the evidence is right here in this room.
Who will blink first?
So far from preventing the expansion of NATO, Russian actions have actually resulted in the expansion of NATO.
It's a mess for Russia and it's a mess for the Western world, for NATO and the United States.
Putin is a dictator, and if he loses, that means the end of his regime, and probably of him personally. So he has to keep going.
Year 2, no end in sight. Streaming now.
With all this gear, you must be wondering if I'm climbing a mountain. Well, let me give you a wider look of this place. This is Asia's largest mountain of shame.
A mountain of waste, almost the height of the Qutub Minar.
When you enter capital cities of some of the biggest countries in the world, you don't have 3 garbage mountains waiting to welcome you, depending on whichever side of the city you enter from.
The thing is that a lot of times we talk about landfills only when there's a fire at the landfill. You need to understand that a landfill is at fire almost throughout the year. It's only when the firefighters are not able to douse the fire is when it actually catches the nation's attention, the city's attention, or media attention.
The towering landfills worsen one of Delhi's biggest problems: pollution.
यहाँ पर आप रात को आओ, दिन में आओ, आप 1 घंटे बैठ नहीं सकते बाहर। इतनी धूल, प्रदूषण, महक, आप खाना भी नहीं खा सकते बाहर बैठ के।
Life around the landfill is a curse.
हमारे घर में जो बड़े हैं, उन्हें अस्थमा के वो पेशेंट है। आए दिन उनको नेबुलाइजर लगाना पड़ता है।
डॉक्टर ने मुझे ये चीज बोला कि यहाँ का एरिया छोड़ के कहीं और चाहिए।
Delhi's garbage mountains are now a fetid symbol of the national capital's trash problem. The question is, who is to be blamed? Watch Delhi's Garbage Mountains. Streaming on News 9 Plus for the Genflix.
मैं इमरान अहमद खान नियाजी सबके दिल से हल्फ उठाता हूँ।
When Imran Khan came initially into politics, he thought his personal popularity would be sufficient for him. It didn't happen.
The retired military generals are openly saying that Imran Khan is a better choice.